Heights Board of Education. Beth, would you call the roll?
Mr. Bodie?
Here.
Mrs. Gephardt? Here. Mr. Gousset?
Here.
Mrs. Matney?
Here.
And Ms. Wassman?
Here.
I ask that we all stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll now get to the organizational business with the oath of office.
All right, Mr. Bodie, we will start with you.
Awesome.
So if you want to raise your right hand, and you can repeat after me. I, Eric Bodie,
I, Eric Bodie,
solemnly affirm
solemnly affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties
and I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties
as a member of the Board of Education
as a member of the Board of Education
of the Grandview Heights Schools
of the Grandview Heights Schools
to the best of my
to
ability
the best of my ability
and in accordance with the laws
and in accordance with the laws
now in effect and hereafter to be enacted
now in effect and hereafter to be enacted
during my continuance in said office
during my continuance in said office
and until my successor is elected and qualified.
and until my successor is elected and qualified.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I'll just have you sign.
My wife is here.
Thank you.
Want to take a picture?
You ready?
Oh, good.
Which hand, if I'm doing on? You can raise your right hand. Right here. Okay, and you can repeat after me. I, Molly Wassman, solemnly affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States
That I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties
and I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties
as a member of the Board of Education of Grandview Heights,
as a member of the Board of Education of Grandview Heights
to the best of my ability
to the best of my ability
and in accordance with the laws now in effect
and in accordance with the laws now in effect
and hereafter to be enacted
and hereafter to be enacted
during my continuance in said office
during my continuance in said office
and until my successor is elected and qualified.
and until my successor is elected and qualified.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I know you're smiling.
Right hand and repeat after me. I, Katie Matney, solemnly affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States
Solemnly affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties
and I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties
as a member of the Board of Education
as a member of the Board of Education
of the Grandview Heights Schools
of the Grandview Heights Schools
to the best of my ability
to the best of my ability
and in accordance with the laws
and in accordance with the laws
now in effect
now in effect
and hereafter to be enacted
and hereafter to be enacted
during my continuance in said office
during my continuance in said office
and until my successor is elected and qualified.
and until my successor is elected and qualified.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
thank you. No, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you all, and congratulations. Next on the agenda is the election of the officers of the Board of Education. I would entertain a motion.
So how do we do this? Should I say that I move for Eric Bodie to be president?
If that's what you want.
That's what I want.
Second that nomination.
Moved and seconded. Are there any discussion? Not. Beth, would you call the roll?
Mr. Bodie?
Aye.
Mrs. Gephardt?
Aye.
Mr. Doucet?
Aye.
Mrs. Matney?
Aye.
And Ms. Wassman?
Aye.
And do I hear a motion about the election of Vice President of the Board of Education?
I move to nominate Emily Gephardt for vice president.
Second. I got aggressive.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion there? If not, Beth, would you call the roll?
Mr. Bodie?
Aye.
Mrs. Gephardt?
Aye.
Mr. Doucet?
Aye.
Mrs. Matney?
Aye.
And Ms. Wassman?
Aye.
We are organized. All right, next on the agenda is resolution to establish time, place, and date of regular meetings. There is a draft in the agenda that does not have specific dates in it. I believe what we have done up till now is the second Wednesday of the month, and plan on meeting every month except for July. So I guess I would move that those would be the dates that would be adopted. Unless, yeah, I will move that those would be the dates.
Mr. Bodie, can I make one request for the June meeting? Can we typically push that back closer to the end of the month for fiscal year end purposes? So maybe the 29th is the last Wednesday. We could probably do the 22nd too, if that would be preferable.
Is there any preference that anyone has between the 22nd and the 29th of June?
I would prefer June 22nd, if possible.
Does that work with the timing,
Yeah,
Beth?
that'll-
I know there's, yeah, timing considerations there.
Yeah, that'll work.
Okay. Just make Beth work extra hard that week before.
That's what we're here for.
So, the regular meetings being the second Wednesday of each month, with the exception of June, where it'd be June 22nd, and no planned meeting in July. Typically, of course, we do have other meetings that come up that can be voted on and approved, or some of these can be altered if needed, but we need a starting place.
I'll second that motion.
And I'm sorry, I forgot to say one thing with the work session. So that too, Andy, did you have a recommendation for a work session day? This would be a special meeting that we would have at the beginning of the year, usually in the first 2 months, that some overview for the year, some special topics, especially welcoming new members and organizing ourselves as a board with committees and such.
Saturday, January 29th from 8 to noon.
I cannot do that.
Okay.
Sorry.
How about the February 5th? Same time.
If I'm the only holdup,
Is
I
the
would-
22nd too early?
We could do the 22nd as
22nd
well.
would be,
22nd works better for me
Yep,
then.
So the 22nd, 29th, or February 5th were the three that I had on my radar.
no, I'm sorry, the February 5th does work better for me.
Works better. The
Does,
5th works.
yeah.
I
Okay.
could do
I'm having trouble
any
reading
day.
my own calendar. No, that's,
And Emily, does that,
I could make it work.
I'd prefer the 22nd, but I'm
Same.
flexible for
I'm-
anyone.
Yeah, I'm just like Katie.
I guess the question is, is that enough time to prepare?
Yes.
Okay. That's doable for me. Does anybody object to the 22nd?
no.
All right, let's actually have a motion then. So I will include that in the motion to have the regular meetings as I described earlier. I think Beth got all that. And then the work session would be Saturday, January 22nd. And I'm sorry, did we say a time, 9 to noon?
I said 8 to noon.
8
said
to
8
noon?
to noon.
8 to noon, I will say 8 to noon then. That's my motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Beth, would you call the roll?
Mr. Bodie?
Aye?
Mrs. Gephardt?
Aye.
Mr. Gousset?
Aye.
Mrs. Matney?
Aye.
And Ms. Wassman?
Aye.
All right, there are a whole series of resolutions that are required for us at the beginning of the organizational year here that I think are fairly standard. But I would suggest voting on D through T as one vote. Is there a second for that?
I'll second.
Do we have a first?
I was first here.
Okay.
Just making sure.
Is there any discussion on any of those items?
I can just share that the only change from last year and all of those items is we removed 2 law firms that we don't really consult with anymore. The language in the rest of those is consistent with last year.
Any further discussion? Beth, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Bodie?
Aye.
Mrs. Gephardt?
Aye.
Mr. Gousset?
Aye.
Mrs. Matney?
Aye.
And Ms. Wassman?
Aye.
We do have items U and V, which are appointment to OSBA Legislative Liaison and the OSBA Student Achievement Liaison. Would want to see, first of all, if there are any volunteers that would want to do either of those 2 roles.
I'd be happy to continue in that position, but if someone else would like an opportunity, I'm not against that.
No, I'm going to be serving on OSBA's Legislative Platform Committee, but there's no reason why that should conflict with you doing that, because then we'll both get exposure in our own way. And
Nice.
So a motion there to adopt U and V, both Legislative Liaison and Student Achievement Liaison to be Molly Wassmuth. Is there a second?
okay, give it to Kevin.
Beth, please call the roll.
Mr. Bodie?
Aye.
Mrs. Gephardt?
Aye.
Mr. Gousset?
Aye.
Mrs. Matney?
Aye.
And Ms. Wassman?
Aye.
Great. Next would be, we are moving on to recognitions and presentations.
At this time, I'd like to call up Brad Bertani and Kathy Kennard.
Can everyone hear me? Well, it is my honor and privilege to be here tonight to help recognize our friend and colleague, Kathy Kennard. Kathy has an illustrious history here at Grandview, and she started it all back in 1976 as a new business teacher here in the district, and she's been working for Grandview ever since, and has really had an incredible record and legacy that she'll leave us with. Kathy also was our athletic director for 17 years. And also, of course, our longtime boys and girls tennis coach. And it'd be hard not to go by the Erlin courts and not see Kathy working with our kids, whether they're high school kids or younger kids in the summer and lessons. Kathy has certainly been a fixture here in the tennis world for us. Kathy's positive impact on our community, our kids, her co-teachers, her administrators, has been immeasurable. In fact, I have 3 statements that I want to read, if you can bear with me, that from some of her colleagues that they wanted me to share with you tonight. The first one is, I'll just read it to you. I was very fortunate to start my career at Grandview Heights with Kathy Kennard when Kathy Kennard was teaching here. I looked up to her as a teacher because she was such a great teacher. She was such a caring teacher and not only educated in the business fields, but also made her students better people. She cared about the kids. She showed them that, and they knew it. She was a role model to me in that she was always prepared, but more so, she always had a good word for everyone and seemed to always be in a good mood. Upon her leaving the classroom and becoming the athletic director, she became my direct boss as I also coached. She was always very patient and helpful in guiding me through the beginning of my coaching career. I will always appreciate her willingness to be honest and forward with me, both good and bad, to make me a better coach. I was so excited when she agreed to come back and coach tennis even after she retired. I miss her. I wish her nothing but the very best as she embarks on the next stages of her life. That was from Kevin Richards. So I think everyone knows Mr. Richards. The second one, I had the pleasure of working with Kathy when she was the athletic director, when she was with her when she was in the classroom and when she worked as my assistant boys tennis coach. So I have seen her in a number of different elements. Even though we agreed on most things throughout our careers, we had a few situations in which we didn't. In those times of disagreement, I never once thought anything that was said was in any way personal. Kathy always had the best interests of her athletes or students in mind. She was a great athletic director to work for, very supportive in all areas. As a tennis coach, it would be difficult to find someone with more knowledge of the game than her. I was always impressed by how she was able to explain the game to our kids. They were very fortunate to have her. She kept things simple, and this allowed our players to succeed on the courts. And that was from Ray Corbett, a longtime boys basketball coach and fellow teacher for a long time here. This last one, I'll let you see if you can guess who wrote this one. What an absolute honor it is to salute Kathy Kennard from 2,250 miles away in California. It was truly a joy to work alongside this great teacher and coach during my wonderful tenure in Grandview Heights schools. Kathy was the ultimate professional in her roles in Grandview Heights, and her love of tennis was something I admired so much during my years as athletic director. It was so appropriate and deserved that she followed me in the role of athletic director after I retired from teaching. What fun times there were for me with the entire Kennard family, and both Kelsey and Kylie were valuable members of my outdoor education staffs when they were in high school. And what a joy was to see Alan be as passionate about tennis as his wife. The highest of accolades go to you, my good friend, and thank you, Kathy, for all you did for Grandview Heights. Keep smashing those tennis serves forever. Larry Larson. So that gives you just a small flavor of the impact that Kathy had on her contemporaries, her colleagues. Just amazing. On a personal note, I want to thank Kathy as a kind of a new AD 6 years ago, and throughout my tenure here, Kathy's always been a good sounding board for talking about things related to Grandview athletics. Also, she ran the tennis program A to Z. I really didn't have to do anything. So, Kathy, thank you for making that job easy on me. And also, Kathy coached my wife for 4 years. That was just a couple years ago, I think. So, she credits you with all her talent in tennis. And so she's very thankful for that and her experience with you. But seriously, Kathy always has probably the highest rated, every year, the highest rated coach that we have from our student athletes. And they do yearly season end reviews, and Kathy always consistently gets the highest rating. So the kids are the most important things, and that's the reason we're in this business. And Kathy, you've done them well. So we will all miss you. You'll be sorely missed. But Grandview is so blessed to have you with us for all these years. Congratulations on retirement, and thank you for all you've done for Grandview. Thank you. Thank you.
So Kathy, on behalf of the Board of Education, we do have a small token of appreciation, and it says, Kathy Kennard, teacher, coach, athletic director, mentor, and friend. With great appreciation, Grandview Heights Schools, January 2022. So that's for you. Congratulations.
Alan, her husband, would you like to come up and take a picture with Kathy real quick?
Yes, please.
Kathy, would you like to say a few words?
You don't have to if you don't want to.
I thought my last speech was that last one in the spring of 2011 when I had to speak in front of the athletic banquet. But regardless, I truly have been blessed to be at this community in this school district. I only hope that what I've done for the people I've worked with is greater than what I got out of it, because I got an awful lot out of it. This is a great place to work. I appreciate the colleagues I got to work with, the administration, the parents and the kids. Our two girls went through here, and they couldn't have gotten a better education, so I appreciate all that.
A few of our student athletes would like to come up and present Kathy with something very unusual looking here. Have the rules changed that we're not aware of? Go ahead, Ray. You guys want to say something real quick? Okay.
Thank you for just being a great coach to us. We really had a fun time. Yeah, thank you for like all skill levels of tennis. You always made it work. I don't want to cry. Thank you.
Together, and then I'm going to be on the end. And Haley, you're going to take it? Okay.
Yeah, I know you're smiling. And if I may say, 50 years, I think, deserves a standing ovation.
Thank you, everyone.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Kathy.
Yeah, I must say, a couple of us board members have had the pleasure of being coached by Kathy, too. So I know Katie and I are very appreciative of all her help as well.
And multi-generation, onto my kids
Yeah.
too. So. Next up, Andy, we have a special presentation from the Marble Cliff Education Foundation.
So I'd like to, Board President of the Grandview Heights Marble Cliff Education Foundation, Nicole Donofsky.
I don't know how to follow that. My son Roman was playing tennis last year. He already misses her, so he hated to hear that news. Good evening, everyone. Tonight I have some fellow board members with me, and I'm going to put you on the spot, so if you can please stand. James Hunt, Josie Huff, Tendi Chang, Jenny Betts. I know I saw Marissa Long McKinney somewhere. Oh, there you are. Sorry. And let's see. Most recently, Katie Matney, until she got a new job. And last but not least, Fair Christos. Did I miss anyone? Okay. We have a few others that aren't here, Kulo Moyo and Megan Stanley. So tonight is an example of some really great things coming together all at the right time. This past year, the foundation celebrated 30 years since its inception. The district is undergoing one of the largest construction and renovation projects, hopefully in our lifetime. And we're also realizing the importance of gathering in outdoor spaces due to the pandemic, which has delayed our 30-year celebration. Due to the foresight of our founding members 30 years ago, our residents, our parents, staff members, and our small businesses, they have invested the time and money to build the endowment for the Education Foundation. So when Farah initiated the discussion about how the foundation would celebrate 30 years, we knew immediately it was the right time to give the community back to the community in a significant way. So with that, we are very excited to present the Board of Education a donation to help fund the enhancements in the form of an outdoor discovery space at Larson Middle School that will allow students the opportunity to learn, socialize, and play in an outdoor environment. And it will be a space that the communities of Marble Cliff and Grandview Heights can enjoy. So with that, James.
Check up here. Here you go. So it's for $200,000, which will fund hopefully most of the outdoor learning center that Chris just discussed. So We thought it would be fun to bring a big check here. Picture, so here we go.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. We need to get everyone from the board up for a picture with this. You want to do that now? Or I have a few words that I wanted to say. Can I give that back to you just real quick? So first off, on behalf of Grandview Heights Board of Education, the Grandview Heights School District, and most of all, the staff and students of Larson Middle School, I wanted to extend a heartfelt, sincere, and gigantic thank you to the Grandview Heights Marble Cliff Education Foundation. Your generous donation of $200,000 to help fund enhancements to our site plan by providing different and new student learning and discovery zones and engaging play areas as part of Phase 3 of our site plan that will begin in February or March 2023. I know that our landscape architect from MKSK under Rick Espy's leadership will be working to garner user group feedback from Larson Middle School staff, students, and parents in the coming weeks, months to make sure that this generous donation is fully actualized and user group feedback is realized. The Grandview Heights Marble Cliff Education Foundation has already been a tremendous support and partner to the Grandview Heights School District, financially and in so many other ways since their inception in 1991. Examples of their generosity include, but are not limited to, annual college scholarships to Grandview Heights seniors who are graduating, grants that go towards supporting innovative instructional practices for our teachers and students, generous donation to help support the Wellness Center for our students for lifelong wellness learning. This generous donation will have such a positive impact on the outdoor learning and discovery experience of our students through play, exploration, and collaboration for generations to come. We are so very, on behalf of the entire board, appreciative of the Grandview Heights Marble Cliff Education Foundation's generosity. Thank you to the foundation, to the board members for their leadership and their generosity to our community and to our school district. So thank you. Haley, where do you want us? Do you want us to stand here, or do you want to stand in front of the board members and the board members stand up? That's a good idea.
Well, you want us to just stand
Or
up
we stand
somewhere?
behind the board members.
Oh,
So we just sit.
I feel
Yes, so
lazy.
stand
We just sit
Haley,
here.
what do you want us to do? Just tell us.
What do you want the board members to do? Just
Yeah, and foundation board members,
I
please.
didn't come to the last two meetings. How lucky were y'all,
I think
right?
we're just sitting here.
I think we're just
This is
sitting.
like we did for the soccer team.
Yeah.
Beth gets the check.
Okay, yeah, Beth gets the check. Yes, here, this way.
I don't want to block
Yeah.
that check.
Can you get us all, Haley? John? John!
Come on.
John!
Wow.
Yeah.
It's too hard.
I know you're all smiling. This is awesome. Awesome, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Really
you.
unbelievable.
So much. Andy, I just wanted to add, all the many, many meetings that we've had making design choices and all the balancing the budget. And there are some things that you're just so proud of and some things that you kind of think, well, it'd be nice if we could do something a little bit more. And that outdoor area was one that was kind of that untapped potential. And I think this is just the exactly right thing that we need to bring that up to an A+ level. So much appreciated. It's exactly what the community needs. Andy, up next for School Board Recognition Month.
Some of you may or may not know, but January is School Board of Education Appreciation Month. I would like to formally thank each and every one of our 5 board members for their leadership and willingness to serve our community, our students, and our school district. Thank you to each of you for your service. I would also like to officially welcome our new board member, Katie Matney. I know I speak for the entire board when I say congratulations and welcome to our team. I know you will make all of us better. And most importantly, our students will benefit. Congratulations also to Eric Bodie and Molly Wassman for successfully becoming board members again and continuing to help maximize and personalize every student's learning. In serving as a board member, you are a leader of our community and school district. I have learned that true leadership is about one's ability to serve others. Through your actions, you all have demonstrated service above self. It is true, or it's my belief anyway, that none of you are running for personal gain or ego. Rather, it is your desire to be a part of something bigger than oneself and contribute to making Grandview Heights and Marble Cliff community and our school district a small place where students can dream big. I know each and every one of you are committed to that, and I know that because I see it every day through your example. I thank each of you for your service and look forward to working with you in the coming years. Governor Mike DeWine and Lieutenant Governor John Husted have created a formal resolution for Board of Education Appreciation Month that I have a copy for each of you, but I'm going to read it as well. In the name of the authority of the state of Ohio, whereas more than 700 boards of education oversee and manage the personal and properties of school districts throughout Ohio, and whereas school board members are elected to establish the policies that provide the framework for their schools, and whereas school board members devote hours of their time each week to provide leadership to their local schools, and whereas school boards fill an important role with members creating and monitoring district plans to make sure students have the tools and skills to reach their full potential. And whereas school boards maintain communications with all segments of their communities to keep the public informed of district's activities. And whereas school board members advocate for the best interests of the students served in their districts. And whereas throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, Ohio school boards have played an important role in providing safe, ongoing instruction to students. And whereas it is important that communities support school boards so that the students receive the best education and are prepared to be the leaders of tomorrow. And now, therefore, we, Mike DeWine and John Husted, Governor and Lieutenant Governor of the state of Ohio, do recognize congratulations to each of you. So I thought that was kind of a nice thing that they sent to us. So I would like to also give not only a copy of that resolution, but formally recognize through a certificate. Eric Bodie, congratulations and thank you for your service.
Thank you, Andy.
Molly Wassman, congratulations and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Emily Gephardt, congratulations and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Kevin Gousset, congratulations and thank you for your service. Katie, welcome to the team.
Thank you. Happy
Look
to
forward
be
to
here.
working with you for many years to come.
Thank you.
This is where you make your joke about these crowds.
That's it. That's right. We should get recognized. I think Katie's doing a fantastic job so far.
I've carried a lot of the weight so far.
There's that as well.
Thank you. This is great meeting.
Well, thank you, Andy.
Every board meeting, just like this.
I get
And thank
Katie.
you for the little treats as
Yeah,
well.
there's a small token. Haley, yeah, Haley.
I'm sure Haley had
Thank
something
you,
to do with
Haley.
this.
So good to have you back, Haley. I miss you.
Things were lost last month.
I was over there.
No water.
We didn't have water. We didn't
I almost
have.
brought my own water, and then I was like, I know Haley's back. I'll have it.
It was like a
Andy,
desert.
Andy, you were great.
Thank you.
You were great.
Thank you.
Great, Andy.
Thank you.
All right.
Great. So on to the construction update.
Ooh, more
I
fun.
think,
So Colleen Cross, yeah, Colleen, come on up. But just as a way of announcement, because it's fun and exciting, Jay Tadina, who typically does our board updates, he and his wife had their second child. Yesterday, Samuel Tadina, so congratulations to Jay Tadina and his family. So for good reason, he's not here tonight.
It's funny because I think he had his first child like right after.
That's right.
Right when I was first sworn in, and now here we are 2 years later.
Sophia? Is it Sophia?
Eleanor.
Eleanor. Oh, I was way wrong.
Yeah, she was born in like early February, so they're very close, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So, congrats
But we're
to
in
Jay.
great hands,
I
Colleen.
know, I hope so. So for those of you who don't know, I'm Colleen Cross. I'm the project engineer with the CKE construction team, and I'll be doing your construction update today. So congrats again to the board, again on your reappointment, and then welcome to the team. Looking forward to working with you, Katie. So as far as schedule goes for the high school renovation, we are pretty much substantially complete with the majority of the demolition in the high school. There's still a little bit in the basement and the crawl spaces, and then based on some existing conditions, there's a couple of changes, and those items are still in the works, but they are pretty close to being done. As you guys may have seen over on the other side, lots of lintels have been gone in, which are the structural steel that kind of create those large new openings for big storefront windows, overhead doors. Probably the last time you were in there, there was a lot of shoring up that helped support those while we put them in, and you'll see a lot of them have made their way out of the building. So we have just a couple of more pieces of shoring that's left. Mechanical, electrical, plumbing on the second and first floor have continued. The majority of the overhead work is on the second floor, and they're starting the hangers, which is what supports the material on the first floor. Since a lot of that stuff is up in the air, we've started wall framing on the second floor. So that includes furring out the walls and also new classroom walls. So you can really start to see on the second floor all of those classrooms start to take shape, and you'll see and you can feel how the sizes of the rooms. In those walls, you'll see electric going in, plumbing going in. And then we also do have one room that is going to serve as our mock-up room. So we're going to kind of expedite the finishes in that room. So you may have seen some wood blocking in the walls. And we'll be starting to do drywall and flooring in there to just give the district kind of a mock-up building. This building is from the ground up. It's brand new finishes, whereas in the high school, you're going up existing flooring that's been in place in certain areas for over 100 years. So we want to do the mock-up to make sure it's up to standard before we continue on in the rest of the areas. In addition, you'll see the windows have moved to the first floor. So we've started the window replacement. We're moving from the Fairview side over to Oakland. You'll see that we've turned the corner this week, so we're coming down the Oakland side with all those window replacements. There will be a couple that will lag behind the rest of the windows just because we're using them for temporary heat, but they will go in eventually. We are preparing for new rooftop units to power the HVAC. So we're preparing like steel and some selective demolition, preparing for those to come in the spring. We're getting ready for in-wall inspections, which will then allow us to go for drywall in the next couple of months. And pretty much next month is a continuation of a lot of what you have seen in the tours. Anybody have any questions? Looks great.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's nice to see the classrooms. I mean, so many of them are refigured, essentially making them larger, a lot of them like 50% larger, which is just, it's not something that sounds like, amazing, but then make a huge difference in the day-to-day teaching. So I'd love to see that.
Large space, lots of big windows will definitely make a huge difference, that natural light.
The windows already make a huge difference. Like I was saying, when I walked by the front and seeing those second floor windows in the front of the building, I mean, I know you can see them on all sides now, but especially there because they're just huge and they're just so bright. They really, I don't know, freshen up.
They do make a huge difference, right, Mr. Bodie?
They do. All the exterior ones. All right, any other questions for Colleen? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Colleen.
Colleen.
Thank you.
And please
Tell
give-
Jay congrats.
Exactly.
Next on our agenda, our esteemed Stevenson Elementary Principal, Lisa Sullivan. So as way of background, before Lisa begins, one of the things that, as you know, we do as a governance team and take very serious, and I take very serious in my role as your superintendent, is this idea of a narrowly set of annual objectives that are identified through the thinking of when there's unity of purpose and focus around an established set of objectives on an annual basis is when we as an effective governance team, but more important or of equal importance, vertically integrated, is when we can move the proverbial flywheel and make a difference, have an impact, and accomplish collectively our stated objectives on an annual basis. It's called, many people call it a myriad of things, whether it's a strategic plan or, I call it a continuous improvement plan. Goals are enduring, our objectives to change each year. And in essence, we start with the end in mind, and that is, what is it that we want to accomplish? And what evidence will we furnish based on what it is that we agree on an annual basis? So by July 2022, what is it that we want to accomplish? And then on a monthly basis, based on those identified annual objectives, we report to the board examples of what it looks like when we're making progress towards those stated objectives. Correspondingly, once a year, we have each principal present to give just a snapshot and a more intimate exposure of what it might look like when we're working towards one of those stated objectives. That culminates in Ms. Sullivan being present here tonight.
Well, good evening. I am Lisa Sullivan. I'm the new principal at Stevenson Elementary. I'm going to keep milking that new title as long as I can. And today what I want to talk to you guys about is PBIS at Stevenson. And don't worry, I will define what PBIS means because, as everybody knows, educators love initials. So what does it mean? It actually stands for Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports. So what does that mean? It's, in a nutshell, it's a framework for improving and integrating everything that we do to help our students be successful. So it's a way for us to support all of our kids so that we create the kinds of schools where students feel engaged, joyful, and safe. And what does that look like at the elementary level? So the first thing that we look at is our values. And at Stevenson, we focus in on 3 core values that, my students might say that I beat a dead horse sometimes with saying this over and over and over, but they're work hard, be kind, and be safe. And those have been in place for a while now. They're clear. Our kids know what they mean across different areas in the building. So they know what the expectations are in the office are the same as what the expectations are in first grade and third grade, in the gym, in the cafeteria, all over the school. So we create those common expectations together. So we also utilize Responsive Classroom. And Responsive Classroom is a student-centered social and emotional learning approach. And the purpose, again, is to create safe, joyful, and engaging classrooms and school community. Really, the purpose of our Responsive Classroom and everything that we do is to help our students feel engaged and have a sense of belonging in our building, wherever they happen to be. So what does that look like? We as a staff defined what those expectations look like at a building level. So you can see these are things that our students know from the beginning of the year. What all of those different values actually look like and sound like in different areas in the building. Now, we don't want it to stop there because we want our students to also take ownership over those things as well. So, these are some examples of classroom expectations that are aligned with our school expectations. So you can see in the classrooms, they post the signs and they talk about, they define what those look like in their actual classrooms. And then we have some students, when they see a problem, I want to encourage them to find a solution to that problem. So if there's kids that were being loud in the hallway, well, what's something that we can do to remind kids to be respectful and be kind in the hallway? So we have some of those signs around the building as well. But what's new this year? And this is something I'm really proud of. As a district, we have our learning attributes. You've seen these, they're on our report cards. And those are things that we look at all the time. Now, there's a misconception sometimes that kids either have these or they don't, or that they just magically appear at some point in their lives. So what we decided to do was we're really focusing in on those learning attributes to make sure that we're explicitly teaching them, giving kids an opportunity to practice so that they take ownership and live those attributes. Oh, sorry. So we created a scope and sequence with some of the learning attributes that we thought we could really hone in on this year. Now, even though it's a month-to-month thing, that doesn't mean it's like a checklist. So just because December's over doesn't mean we stop talking about empathy, those types of things. So as a PBIS team, what we do is we get together once a month and we create lessons for teachers and resources for them to use with their classrooms. And here is the virtual classroom. Teachers have access to this on their dashboard, their class link page, and so they can click into a month to see like the actual lesson plans. So I'll just pull up December. And this is what a teacher sees. So there is a video link to me doing a read aloud, so they can show that to their kids, and I do a little spiel about like what the learning attribute is and things like that. And then there's different activity suggestions. So because December we focused on empathy, we decided to look at different types of service projects. So if a teacher in a classroom decided that they wanted to do one of those, they could click on it and they could find ways to give, ways to contribute, all of those different things. I was really amazed by some of the initiative that our kids and our teachers took with just this learning attribute. We had our music teacher create kind of a CD, it's not a physical CD, but it's MP4s, recordings of each grade level performing different songs from around the world for the holidays, and they shared it with one of the nursing homes locally so that it kind of gave the kids an opportunity to give back. And the kids built this connection to that because they were thinking about how they felt when they were in quarantine. So they had a little bit of perspective as to what it might feel like to be alone and kind of feel a little isolated in that moment. I also had another third grade classroom who they saw a need in another school where kids didn't necessarily have socks and underwear and things like that available to them in their clinic that they desperately needed. So as a classroom, they decided to collect those different kinds of items and they donated that. So our purpose in doing these things is also to make them global citizens and to help them see that the world is bigger than just Grandview too, so that they can really use this as experiential learning opportunities too. So here also, so they have multiple ways where they can access the information. So it's by month, or if they want to go back to a particular learning attribute, so let's say, you know what, I'm noticing my kids are having a hard time with, let's say, empathy. So there are other books that teachers can use that focus on empathy, and if they click on them, there's read-alouds that are linked to those as well. There's little video clips that they can watch as well. So every month, I do a read-aloud, and I talk a little bit about the learning attribute. That's how they kick it off. And then teachers have just a selection of different things that they can use as well.
Lisa, who curated this content?
That would be Emily Dupre. She has an amazing ability to take what's in my brain and make it look like that.
This actually takes me back to the COVID days when my kid would be doing Spanish with her.
Oh, yeah.
And this is what her landing page looked like for specialist.
She's amazing with doing all of this, and I'm appreciative for her because I couldn't create this. I just had in my brain what I wanted it to look like. She goes, oh yeah, I can make that, which was wonderful. And then why is PBIS important now? When we think about what our kids are going through right now with COVID, with societal unrest, all of those issues,
when we think about focusing in on that positive behavior and we focus on meeting kids where they are and providing them the supports that they need in ways that help all kids find success, a lot of times in education we see like the 3-tiered pyramid with the interventions, but I found this on PBIS.org and I thought this was a way better pyramid to use because I really feel like it speaks to what we want to accomplish right now in this day and age. So, any questions?
One small request.
Yes.
Could you make this bigger and do it for America?
It would be wonderful, wouldn't it?
You don't mean just children, I'm guessing.
Yeah, exactly. All of us, I think, could benefit from it.
I have a question. Do you see this as being something you'll use year over year?
Absolutely.
And how would you refresh what you pull from?
Well, and I think that we, like I said, we meet monthly as a PBIS team. So we really, even though we have this outline of what we want to do month to month, when we meet, sometimes it shifts and we're like, okay, I feel like this is what our building needs right now. And hopefully next year we can take it in, like, responsive classroom, one of the big pieces of it is school-wide assemblies and things like that, so everybody hears the same message at the same time. The hope is that we could do the same with all of these things, making sure that everybody hears the same message. We give them opportunities to learn and grow with these, because when a child, like our kindergartners right now, once they start hearing about the learning attributes, what they're going to be doing with it is going to be different than what they're going to be doing with it in 3rd grade, and hopefully we're preparing them for when they get into the middle school and then finally into the high school as well. But I do see us just kind of tweaking and shifting, even the order in which we do things, the depth in which we can go into those concepts too, because right now we're still at that very surface level, so hopefully we can go a little bit more in depth with each learning attribute as well. And with, you know, our values of work hard, be kind, be safe, my goal is for our kids to really start taking more ownership and showing that language throughout the building and really taking ownership over that as well.
When you say PBIS team, is that like a small group within Stevenson staff?
It is. So it's myself, I have 2 co-chairs that are teachers, and then I have a grade level representative from each group, as well as like a specials teacher and like an intervention teacher as well. Okay. And so we get together and it's a great team because I get to hear from different perspectives too. So.
I think it's really neat how you're doing it month to month, and I'm just picturing the kids that are in kindergarten next year, by the time they're in 3rd grade, they'll kind of have been through this and they might be able to show the younger kids, like, this is something that you could really build upon. I think it's really cool.
Right, and I would love for them to be able to define for themselves. Like right now, our January attribute is accountability. Well, it's really hard for them to understand, wrap their brains around what accountability means, but the more and more that we expose them to it, it's just, oh, I have to be responsible for my own actions. Okay, I get that now, so.
Great.
Thank you for the presentation. It was amazing to see like the snapshot of, I'd hate to guess how many hours and just of what that is. 2 questions, and you can answer the first one last. 30 seconds on what is responsive classroom, like for that. And then when you say kick off, how do you kick it off as a collective school?
Those are great questions. So responsive classroom is actually a social emotional learning program, for lack of a better word.
That's a very hard question to do in 30 seconds. I know what I did to you, but.
No, but it really does focus on creating, it's not just focusing on the discipline part of it, it's focusing on creating community, creating engaging classrooms, thinking about conversations, and the focus shifting away from using tangible rewards for students and having them take ownership and responsibility, like internalizing all of those, all of their actions and understanding, you know, positive and negative consequences as well. So, and then a school-wide kickoff, that's a great question because this year I really failed at that. I'm going to own that. But I would say going forward, what I would love to do if we get back to being able to have school assemblies or even classroom, like grade level types of assemblies, I would love to be able to meet with each grade level and be able to have that conversation and really kick it off and reboot that whole responsive classroom piece. Because with COVID, it did kind of get a little skewed.
Yeah, I was curious with COVID. I'm like, how do you do a kickoff? Like, is it the first day of the month? You do the announcements?
Well, it usually kicks off, the teachers have like the links and everything, so they usually kick it off with my read aloud in their classrooms, which YouTube never grabs the best picture of you when it's capturing that image for the little thumbnail. It's awful. But yeah. So that's usually how they kick it off. And then, like I said, I usually give like a little, good morning, Stevenson friends. Today we're going to talk about accountability. And I just go into what that means. And then the teachers can go a little bit deeper with that too.
It's really great work, and that teaching, that's what we need. As Mr. Bodie said, I'm like, we're seeing it as we trickle up into the into the grades where I'm like, these are some of the things
and
that
we're
are
just
missing.
Scratching the surface right now in terms of like what we need and what our kids need too. So I'm excited to see where we can go going forward.
Yeah, please, on behalf of the board, tell the Stevenson teachers this is amazing work.
I will. They would love to hear
We're all
that.
proud to support this.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, this is the thank you, Lisa. The board recognizes the value of school governance of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on school matters of community interest. We do welcome public participation, whether it is now at the transition time into some of the board actions or right before an individual action occurs. Is there anybody, and I should mention that we do have the public participation at board meeting rules that have been part of our board for a long time and are attached to the meeting agenda. Is there anybody who wishes to speak to the board tonight? Come on up.
Jeff Wall, 1130 Virginia Avenue. I know COVID cases are high right now, and I don't need to have that repeated to me. I'm aware of the unmasking framework that Mr. Culp has advocated for, but I don't think that's very practical. I don't think that's what I'd call a plan. So I'd be interested to hear from all of the board members what the plan is to move us out of forced masking on all the kids. What is the plan? What are the steps? What's the timetable? I'd be very interested to hear that.
Okay. Thank you for your comments today. We'll take them under advisement. I know, appreciate your, what you have written as well. And so appreciate, the written communication too.
What does under advisement mean?
Yeah, so the public participation is not a time for back and forth, but we're listening to your comments and appreciate what you have to bring here.
Okay, so no answers right now?
No answers right now, that's correct.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. We have the meeting minutes. We have 3 meetings. I believe everyone was present for all 3 of them, so there's no reason to break them out. So we had the meetings from November 29, December, and 2 regular and special meetings of December 8. that Beth, as always, has done a great job of putting those minutes together. Do I have a motion for adopting those minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, Beth, please call the roll.
Mr. Bodie?
Aye.
Mrs. Gebhardt? Aye. Mr. Gousset?
Aye.
Mrs. Matney?
Aye.
And Ms. Wassman?
Aye.
Next, we're on to our reports, building and department reports. On to Andy.
So the one report I'd like to just give a quick update on is I had an opportunity to meet with city officials from Grandview, as well as our MKSK team, as well as our CKE team. In fact, Jay Tadino was present at this meeting on Monday, before his wife went into labor. And in essence, the beginning conversations of coordination around Fairview Avenue and Fairview going through. There is going to require a lot of coordination between our landscape architect, our CKE team, as well as the city and the ultimate construction firm that they go with, in the interface and timing. Additionally, the city of Grandview uses EP Ferris as their engineering firm, so Matt Ferris was present at this meeting as well. And it was the initial meeting. We're going to meet every other week on an ongoing basis, but I guess in a nutshell, it is going to require a lot of coordination in sequencing, because as you all know, the current high school will be under construction until about a year from now, a little less. So that's phase two. As part of phase two, they are planning on doing the external around just the high school grounds and landscaping. However, everything else is phase three. So that includes demoing the kindergarten auxiliary building, the EILMS building, along with all, the donation, for example, that we were able to realize from the Grandview Heights Marble Cliff Education Foundation, the outdoor learning space, discovery zones, drop-off, fields, turnarounds, basketball hoops, so on and so forth, fencing. That's all phase three. And so trying to coordinate all of that while partnering with the city, with Fairview going through, it's gonna take a lot of planning. And so first meeting occurred Monday of this past week. We'll be meeting every other week, and I'll continue to provide the board updates.
Thank you, Andy. Very helpful. We also had the various reports that were provided, always appreciated. Is there anything that a board member wants to comment or question about anything that they read in those? All right. And we didn't have, the new year, I should just mention, we don't have our committees set up yet. So those will be forthcoming with committee reports, but we don't have those. Although we have, at least the Finance Committee had a meeting this month. Move on to Beth with the Treasurer's Report.
Okay, so I am just going to give some brief financial updates as of the end of December, financial reports. So our general fund, we're right where we expect to be. One thing that is starting up is the tax collection process for the first half 2022. There's a resolution in our organizational business tonight that allows me to request tax advances from the county auditor as they collect that money. That process can be, weeks up to a couple months. And so we will continue to request that money, invest it as we get it, just to maximize our interest earnings. Expenditures for the end of December, we're at about 48%, and we're 50% of the way through the year. So, we're right on target, just a hair under our spending budget. The weighted average of our general fund investments, 1.18%. Permanent Improvement Fund, there is not much new on here. I will mention that our internal Permanent Improvement team had a meeting yesterday where we are working together to kind of finalize create a 5-year, a little bit longer term permanent improvement budget for that levy fund. So we are working together on that, doing some cost research, and then we're going to be reconvening in February to kind of finalize a draft of that, which we'll take to the Finance Committee. The construction fund, that should say December interest earnings were a little over 52,000, so that was a good month in terms of interest. The interest for the project to date, 1.688 million. Soft costs, we have spent about 72%, and construction costs, we've spent about 62% of the budget. Our fund balance is 21.7 million. And our investments in the construction fund, which we have separate from the other funds, about 1.8% is the yield to maturity. So we do have, we are starting to wind down on that, that large sum that we've had invested as we continue to pay those construction bills. We do have, some investments still staggered to mature over the coming months as we kind of wind things down. And then a couple other things I wanted to share. For the first time in years, if not longer, our food service fund has a positive fund balance at the end of December. So a $38,000 fund balance, which is really, really great news financially. In the 5-year forecast, we budget, and we have had to subsidize that fund from general fund every year in recent history. And so, in terms of finances, the federal subsidy program that is providing a free lunch and a free breakfast to every student in our district is really helping that fund financially. So wanted to share that. That is really, really great news. And so, it will be great if we do not need to use that $75,000 or use a lesser amount to balance that fund. And then Kids Club, Kids Club really kind of weathered the storm through the COVID with the program being shut down and some of the staffing issues and much lower teacher to student ratios. And so luckily that fund had built up a little bit of cushion that was able to withstand that tough time. And so that program is back up and running. Internally, we've been working as a leadership team, working together with Amy, the director. Finance Committee has been actively involved in that too, just kind of collaborating to come up with solutions to some of the challenges that, in terms of finances. So we have taken some steps to expand enrollment. We have a long waiting list, and we have taken some steps that allow us to accept some more students off that waiting list. So anyway, I think things are looking up for that fund too. So wanted to share that with each of you. One thing that I wanted to share also is that the Sutphin family donated an additional $5,000 to the district in December through the Columbus Foundation. So that third line down, you'll see that number is now $95,000. That money is a series of, I think that's the fourth donation that makes up that total. And the stipulation has just been that it is used for the high school, is what that family has typically requested with those donations. So wanted to share that, and I'll take any questions.
Well, thank you, Beth, for the overview. Very helpful. I know that Kids Club area is one that we've spent a lot of time with within the Finance Committee, and thank you for the report. I am grateful. I mean, I think that is an extremely valuable service that we do. And weathered a storm here, made some adjustments both on the revenue side and on the spending side as well. But some challenges too, especially with the cost of hiring people, and at the low end of the pay scale that has changed. The world has changed in terms of what we pay people there. So a lot to manage there, but glad to get the report that that still is in good financial shape, and we're able to keep going with that. Any questions or concerns for Beth? Do I have a motion to accept the financial report and accept payments of the December 21 bills?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Beth, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Bodie?
Aye.
Mrs. Gephardt? Aye. Mr. Gousset?
Aye.
Mrs. Matney?
Aye.
And Ms. Wassman?
Aye.
So next on the agenda, recommendations from the superintendent, and the first area is curriculum and instruction. There's the 2022-23 course selection handbook. There were some fairly minor changes, it looked like, from this year. And I think that is something that we need to adopt. So maybe if you have a motion and a second, and then we can have any discussion.
So moved.
Second.
Andy?
I really don't have too much to say, other than this is, like Mr. Bodie or President Bodie said, there aren't too many changes. It's almost identical from last year. Rob, did you want to add any color to what I said?
Yeah, I mean, just like you said, we didn't really make any changes. We made a couple of tweaks that didn't really require approval, just nothing major. But we did add one or two courses, but it's in there, the mock trial course, the moot court, that's going to benefit students. Down the line, we're looking at adding some things, the financial literacy course that we need to bring back. It's going to be a graduation requirement, but we talked about that, and it's going to be brought back for juniors and seniors. So not next year, but starting the year after, it's going to be an offering, and we've talked about how we're going to offer that. So not much different next year. That was strategic based on the challenges of this year.
I believe that what I've understood from before is that the handbook has the potential courses, but it's not necessarily the ones that are actually offered. That's sort of a year by year, depending on availability and demand. So the two new ones, are those intended to actually be taught next year, or are those still in development, and is that under consideration?
Both. They're in development. It's going to be an elective, mostly for freshmen and sophomores. And so it really just takes what they're doing outside of school with mock trial, moot court, and putting it into an elective. I think we called it trial law. But it's something students really wanted. And so it's also something that we've been doing sort of in a credit flex independent study sort of way. And now we're just going to make it a scheduled course throughout the day.
And the finance course is mandated.
Correct.
So
Correct. For next year's
Unless it
incoming
changes, but
freshmen.
yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. The good news is it's run in the past. One of our teachers has done that in the past, and so he still has all the credentials. He has the willingness. If we just change a little bit of what he's doing, it'll be a very smooth transition.
We can have a different conversation.
But we talked through that, and it's probably best geared towards juniors and seniors, and so we're not going to offer it to next year's freshmen, but they will get it before they graduate.
I'm sure parents appreciate you teaching their kids how to argue better.
I got one coming up for you. He's ready.
We were careful how I put that in the handbook, but yes. Any questions about high school course?
Any further discussion? Beth, would you call the roll?
Mr. Bodie?
Aye.
Mrs. Gephardt?
Aye.
Mr. Gousset?
Aye.
Mrs. Matney?
Aye.
And Ms. Wassman?
Aye.
We have a first reading of board policy.
It's essentially what we just talked about, the finance course.
You want to come back up, Mr. Brown?
So do I have a motion? I'm sorry, I'm a little, yeah, this is first reading, so there's no motion at this point. It's for next time. We will move on then to business and finance, and actually, I believe that there are a whole series of here that we could take up together. So all the items under business and finance, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Oh, I'm sorry, all the way up to 5, 6, 7, 8.
C 1 through 8.
C 1 through 8.
There you
Thank
go.
you for that clarification. Did I say the wrong number?
Oh, no, I was just helping you out because we're business and finance.
Excellent.
Oh, yeah,
C 1
teamwork.
through 8.
Teamwork,
Do I have a
Mr.
motion?
I'll motion that one. So moved.
Second.
All right. Beth, would you like to say anything about the, any of these items?
The tax budget, as I mentioned from the budget hearing, is item number 1 for approval. We also have a resolution to extend liability insurance under our district policy to our district support groups, as we have done in the past. Item number 2, that is our PTOs and our booster groups. Item number 4 is the authorization for the architectural firm for Andy to negotiate a contract with, that would be brought back to the board for approval. We worked with Bricker and Eckler on the language and the process to follow for that. And then there's a construction change order, item number 7 that's on there, would be the highlights.
Yeah, just, thank you. And for the construction-related ones, there's a number of people in this room that were part of that process of evaluating the different proposals for the architect, for the athletic complex and athletic needs, that I thought went really well. I'm very pleased with the responses that we got, some really strong firms. And I think there was, I would say, unanimity in the recommendation for the next step, to proceed with the next step and recommend for Andy to negotiate the contract and come back with that. So this is that first step here. It's not actually approval of the contract. And the change order, I would just mention too, because that's one that too the Finance Committee has looked at. It is one that I think basically recommends some areas. It's over, I think it's $58,000, but it's things that were more or less necessary, not really add-ons and want-to-haves. But for instance, flooring, when the lockers were taken out, the flooring had to be redone a bit, just in order to make the hallway work. So unforeseen condition, and that required a little bit extra money. And wanted to make the IT rooms nice and cool for Chris Dyson and his equipment as well. So make sure that they function properly. Any questions for Beth or anyone else about any of these items? Beth, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Bodie?
Aye.
Mrs. Gephardt?
Aye.
Mr. Gousset?
Aye.
Mrs. Matney?
Aye.
And Ms. Wassman?
Aye.
Next, we have personnel items, D. D is in David, and I think we can take them collectively, numbers 1 through 14. Would I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I would just actually point out, I think, which number is it? 6. We had a late ad of a tennis coach that I'm glad to see that we could get that on the agenda in advance of spring season, get ready for that. That was kind of expedited, so thanks to Haley and others for making that happen. But that was a little bit different than the earlier versions of our agenda.
B, Ben McCullough.
Yes, thank you. Any questions or concerns about any of these items?
With the contract expirations, that's just notice.
Correct.
That's just
Correct.
standard notice, yep.
That's what I thought.
All right. Beth, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Bodie?
Aye.
Mrs. Gephardt?
Aye.
Mr. Gousset?
Aye.
Mrs. Matney?
Aye.
And Ms. Wassman?
Aye.
And the last item we have is co-curricular activities and extracurricular activities, approving just 2 volunteers. That is item E, number 1. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Beth, please call the roll.
Mr. Bodie?
Aye.
Mrs. Gephardt?
Aye.
Mr. Gousset?
Aye.
Mrs. Matney?
Aye.
And Ms. Wassman?
Aye.
Are there any other items that a board member wishes to bring up for discussion?
I would just offer, as we think about our next board meeting, I was trying to remember the exact date, but our next board meeting in February, please plan on going into executive session.
Question about that, where will we hold executive?
So we'll either go to 2301
Okay.
or Mark Alter's room.
Okay.
The 9th.
Thank you. I believe I sent you an invite, save the date today.
Yeah.
But, so.
Okay. But as of today, there was no executive
Correct.
session. We do not have that for today. All right, do I hear a motion for adjournment?
So move.
Second.
Beth, please call.
Mr. Bodie?
Aye.
Mrs. Gephardt?
Aye.
Mr. Gousset?
Aye.
Mrs. Matney?
Aye.
Ms. Wassman?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Haley,